Okay, so you're ready for that next step. Introducing your partner to everyone,
Yeah.
your family and friends, big step, right? You want to make sure the timing is right
Oh, for
and
sure.
you want to avoid all the awkwardness for everyone involved. So,
Yeah.
we get that it's a big decision. And
Yeah.
we did a deep dive into an episode of the Relationship Deep Dive podcast
Oh, cool.
to see what the experts had to say about it.
Okay, great.
So, first of all, one thing they talked about was how important
Uh,
timing is, and not
uh,
just like in general, but like
sure.
specifically, they said that the summer tends to be a really good time to do introductions
Really? Why is that?
because there's like more casual gatherings, things are more relaxed,
Oh, okay, that makes
people are outdoors, it's
more laid back.
it's more laid back, and they specifically said
Yeah.
not to do it during the holidays
Oh, interesting.
because there's already so much pressure around the holidays.
Right. Family dynamics.
Family dynamics are heightened and
For sure.
it's just like a lot going on. You don't need to add a new
Yeah, you don't want to add that extra stress.
start into the mix.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool how they got into like the psychology of relationships.
Oh.
Like they were talking about attachment styles.
Okay.
And how that can impact how comfortable someone is with
Mhm,
introductions.
mhm.
Like, for example, someone with an anxious attachment style
Right.
might feel the need to introduce their partner
Sooner.
sooner to kind of like validate,
Right. Like almost to prove something.
yeah, like prove something or
Yeah.
feel more secure.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So it's not just about like
Frame.
the time frame. It's like
Yeah.
about your emotional needs as well.
And how those kind of
Exactly.
play out in the relationship.
Right. And so understanding that can really help a couple
Navigate it for sure.
navigate that decision.
Yeah. Because it is a big decision.
Right.
And they also talked about the importance of not just being comfortable with each other,
Yeah.
but also being on the same page about the future.
Yes.
Like, where is this relationship going? And they gave this really great example where they said, imagine one person thinks the relationship is casual
Right.
and the other person is thinking marriage, kids, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, yeah.
And if you introduce someone to your family in that scenario,
Okay.
that could send some mixed messages.
Yeah. And cause some drama.
Big time. So
yeah.
checking in with your partner first and making sure you're both
On the same page.
on the same page about the commitment level.
For sure.
That's huge.
It is. And I love this analogy they use.
Oh, yeah.
They said, instead of thinking of introductions as like this formal interview,
Right.
try to approach it more like a casual get-together.
Okay. That takes the pressure off, right?
Right.
It's less about like grilling your partner with all
Yeah.
these questions and more about just letting things unfold naturally.
Exactly. But the question is, how do you find that balance?
Right. Like you don't want to just throw your partner into
The lion's den unprepared, but you also don't want to over-prepare or script everything out.
Yeah.
So what do they have to say about that?
Well, they had some really practical tips.
Okay.
They said, give your partner a few like key pieces of information
Okay.
about your family, like
Right.
personalities,
Oh,
interests, maybe a heads up about any like sensitive topics to avoid.
so it's like a cheat sheet
Yes,
without
exactly.
making it like a full-blown interrogation prep.
Right. It's about empowering them to feel
Confident.
confident and prepared, but still letting those authentic connections
Yeah.
form organically.
I love that.
Yeah.
So it's about finding that balance between like
Exactly.
giving them some information but not overwhelming them and not
Yeah.
making it feel like a test.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about prepping your partner,
Yeah.
but what about the family side of things?
Right, because they need some prepping too.
Right, so how do we manage expectations there?
Well, they use this really interesting term,
Ambassador mindset.
ambassador mindset. What does that mean?
So the idea is that you're not just introducing two people,
Okay.
you're acting as like a bridge between two worlds.
Between your partner's world and your family's world.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, so it's less about like passing a test
Right.
and more about helping everyone understand and appreciate each other.
Even if they come from different backgrounds or
It's gonna-
different perspectives.
Right, and that might mean having some honest conversations with your family beforehand.
Like what kind of conversations?
Well, maybe they have some like preconceived notions about your partner,
Oh, okay.
or maybe they're just generally wary of newcomers.
Yeah.
So addressing those concerns openly can create a more welcoming environment.
Yeah, it's like you're setting the stage for these relationships to
Yeah.
actually like flourish
Right.
rather than just throwing everyone together and hoping for the best.
Yeah, and hoping they magically get along.
Right, because that doesn't always happen.
It does-
So even with the best preparation, there's always the possibility of some awkward moments.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like, what if your partner and your family just don't click?
Right. Well, they acknowledge that this is a common fear
Okay.
and they offer some reassuring advice.
Okay, like what?
They remind listeners that not every relationship will be an instant love fest.
Right.
And that's okay.
You can't force it.
You can't force it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes time for those deeper connections to form.
So it's more about like focusing on respectful interactions,
Right.
finding some common ground,
Yeah.
even if it's just small talk, you know?
Exactly. And they highlight the importance of managing your own expectations.
Well, that's a good point because,
It's easy to get caught up in this fantasy of everyone getting along perfectly.
right. And then if it doesn't happen, it's like
Right. And then you're disappointed.
disappointing. Yeah.
And it can actually backfire and make everyone feel more comfortable.
Yeah. So it's about letting things unfold organically
Yes.
while also being mindful of everyone's feelings.
Exactly. And they made a really great point about the impact these introductions can have on your relationship as a couple.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like going through this process together, facing those potential challenges side by side, can actually strengthen your bond.
Because you're not just a couple anymore. You're like a team.
You're a team
Exactly.
navigating this new terrain together.
They're like facing a boss level in a video game.
Right. It can either make it or break you.
Exactly. And they also emphasize the importance of communication throughout the process.
Like before and after.
before and after. The introductions.
Yeah, like checking in with each other regularly can help you address any concerns or celebrate those little victories along the way.
It's like that debrief after a mission.
Exactly.
Did anything go surprisingly well?
Right.
Were there any red flags?
Huh.
How are we feeling about everything?
Exactly. And speaking of different perspectives, the podcast ended on a really intriguing note. They posed the question of how cultural differences or diverse family structures might influence the right time for introductions.
That's such a good point because
Yeah.
in some cultures, family introductions are like a much bigger deal.
Way better.
And they happen much earlier in the dating process.
earlier.
Right? Or maybe there's religions or family traditions that
Right.
play a role in the timing.
Exactly. They gave a few specific examples. Like
Like what?
in some cultures, it's customary for the man to formally ask the woman's father for permission to marry her before any introductions are even considered.
Wow, I did not know that
Yeah.
that really highlights how much our cultural background
Yes.
can shape our expectations and experiences around relationships.
Right. And it underscores the importance of having those open and honest conversations with your partner about these issues.
Yeah,
Because what feels right for one person might not feel right for the other.
Right.
And finding that middle ground requires understanding and compromise.
so it's not just about finding the right time, like in some abstract sense.
Yeah.
It's about finding the time that feels right for your relationship, like
Sure.
taking into account all these different factors.
There are all the factors.
And sometimes the right time might not even be a specific date
Wow.
on the calendar,
yes.
but rather a feeling,
Yes, about feeling.
a sense that you're both ready for this next step.
Exactly.
So much wisdom in that podcast episode.
so much.
But I feel like there's still so much more to unpack here.
Always is. The world of relationships is so fascinating and complex.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
exploring the nuances of timing, managing expectations,
Right.
navigating those potentially tricky first encounters.
Sure.
But before we wrap up,
Okay.
I'd love to leave you with a few more nuggets of wisdom from
Yeah.
the Relationship Deep Dive folks,
Okay.
and maybe offer a final thought to ponder.
Sounds great. Well, one thing that really stuck with me was their emphasis on storytelling. Like how sharing stories about your partner with your family and friends before the actual introduction
Right.
can help create a sense of familiarity.
Yeah, it's like they already kind of know them a little bit.
Exactly. And a sense of anticipation.
Yeah, like, oh, I can't wait to meet this person.
Exactly.
You've been talking about them so much.
It's like planting a seed,
Mm,
you know,
right.
getting everyone excited to finally meet this person who's clearly so important to you.
I like that. And it makes them feel like they're a part of it.
Yeah. And it also helps your loved ones see your partner as a
Yeah.
multidimensional individual
Mhm.
rather than just a name or a face in a photo.
Oh, that's a good point. Because otherwise, it's like they're just this abstract
Yeah,
concept, you know?
exactly. And I imagine it works both ways, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like sharing stories about your family and friends with your partner
Yeah,
can help them feel more connected to your world
right.
and less like an outsider.
And it gives them something to talk about, too.
Exactly. It's all about building those bridges of understanding,
Right.
creating a sense of shared history, even if it's just through stories.
Yeah, and then when they finally meet,
Right.
it's not like starting from scratch.
Exactly. You've already laid that foundation.
Right. Okay, so we've talked about storytelling, but
Yeah.
the podcast hosts also touch on something that I think is really important.
What's that?
And that's accepting that not all relationships
Yeah.
will be instant fireworks.
Right. You can't force chemistry.
You can't force it, and sometimes those deeper
These
connections
take time.
take time to develop.
They gave a great example.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
Imagine your partner and your best friend
Okay.
have very different personalities.
Right, like one's introverted, the other one's extroverted.
Exactly. Or maybe they have different senses of humor.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean they'll never get along.
right.
It just means they might need a little more time
Space.
and space to find common ground.
Yeah, it's like letting a plant grow.
Yes, exactly.
sorry,
Can't rush it.
You can't force it.
We just got to provide the right conditions. Provide the right conditions.
And be patient.
And sometimes those unexpected pairings
Yeah.
turn out to be the most rewarding ones.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, the ones where people surprise you with their ability to connect
Yeah.
on a deeper level despite their differences?
That's a good reminder that relationships, like life,
Yeah.
are full of surprises.
The full of surprise.
Speaking of surprises, the podcast hosts ended the episode
Okay.
with a really thought-provoking question.
Okay.
I think it's perfect for us to ponder as we wrap up this deep dive.
All right. I'm ready.
They asked, how might our own biases or assumptions influence our perceptions of these introductions?
That's a good one. It challenges us to kind of examine our own expectations
Yeah.
and consider how those might be shaping our experiences.
Like, are we secretly hoping our partner's going to, like, blow everyone away
Right.
and everyone's going to love them instantly?
Yeah. Or are we worried about what people will think if they don't hit it off right away?
Right. Are we putting too much pressure on them?
Exactly. It's about becoming aware of those internal narratives.
Yeah.
Making sure they're not clouding our judgment.
Or putting undue pressure.
Right. Or putting undue pressure on everyone involved.
And it's a reminder that everyone's coming into this with their own baggage.
Their own past experiences, their own hopes and fears.
Yeah, it's not just about, like, our hopes and fears for the introduction.
Exactly. It's a complex dance of personalities and dynamics.
For sure.
Approaching it with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness can make all the difference.
Yeah, so as you embark on this journey of introducing your significant other to your world,
Right.
remember to choose your timing wisely,
Yes.
considering both the practical and the emotional factors.
Right.
Communicate openly and honestly with both your partner and your loved ones.
Very important.
Manage expectations,
Yes.
remembering that relationships take time to develop.
They do.
Embrace the unexpected,
Right.
allowing those connections to unfold organically.
Beautifully said.
And most importantly, trust your gut.
Yes.
You know your relationship and your people better than anyone.
Absolutely.
It's been a fascinating deep dive
It has.
into the art and science of introductions.
For sure.
And remember, this is just the beginning of the conversation.
Right.
As always, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas
Yeah.
and discovering what works best for you and your unique situation.
Exactly.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Yeah. And they also talked about like accepting that not all relationships will be instant fireworks.
Yeah, you can't force chemistry, right?
Right. And sometimes those deeper connections take time to develop.
Like they said, imagine your partner and your best friend have totally different personalities.
Exactly. Maybe one's introverted and the other one's like super extroverted.
Yeah, or they have different senses of humor.
Exactly.
Like completely different.
Doesn't mean they won't ever get along.
Right.
Just means they might need a little more time and space to find common ground.
I always think about it like a plant. You
Yeah.
can't like force a plant to grow.
Right.
You got to give it the right condition.
Right. The right environment.
Yeah, and just be patient.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes those like unexpected pairings end up being the most rewarding ones.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. You know, the ones where people surprise you with their ability to connect on like a deeper level despite their differences.
That's a good reminder that relationships are full of surprises.
For sure.
Speaking of surprises,
Okay.
the podcast hosts ended the episode with a really thought-provoking question.
Okay, let's hear it.
They asked, how might our own biases or assumptions influence our perceptions of these introductions?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
It really challenges us to examine our own expectations
Right.
and how those might be shaping our experiences.
Like, are we secretly hoping our partner will impress everyone and win them over instantly?
Yeah. Or are we worried about what people will think if they don't hit it off right away?
It's like we're putting so much pressure on it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's about becoming aware of those internal narratives and making sure they're not clouding our judgment or putting undue pressure on anyone.
Right. And it's a good reminder that everyone's coming into these introductions with their own baggage,
Oh, yeah. Sure.
their own past experiences, their own hopes and fears.
Exactly.
It's a lot more than just, like you said, our hopes and fears for the introduction.
It's a complex dance of personalities and dynamics.
Absolutely. And approaching it with a sense of curiosity and open-mindedness.
can make all the difference.
So as you embark on this journey of introducing your significant other to your world, remember to choose your timing wisely,
Yes,
considering both practical and emotional factors.
absolutely.
Communicate openly and honestly with your partner and your loved ones.
Very important.
Manage those expectations, remembering that relationships take time.
They do.
Embrace the unexpected
Yes.
and trust your gut.
Most important.
You know your relationship and your people better than anyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into the art and science of introductions.
It really has.
And as always, we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas and discovering what works best for your unique situation.
Exactly. Every relationship is different.
Until next time, keep diving deep,